All right, today we are diving deep into a really fascinating theory from our source material. It's a story that tries to connect some pretty big dots: biblical prophecy, a very real and very large asteroid, and what some people call America's secret destiny. And somehow, all of it seems to point to one specific year, 2025.
The source material we're pulling from literally opens with this line. It's a pretty clear signal, right? It's telling us to get ready, because the story we're about to unpack is designed to make you question what you think you know about how the world works. So here it is, the central puzzle we're going to explore. How on earth do these three things, an ancient religious text, a massive rock hurtling through space that NASA is tracking, and the symbols behind the founding of the United States, how do they all come together? Well, according to this theory, they aren't separate things at all. They're actually three major clues in one single, unfolding prophecy.
Okay, let's start with the first clue. To get this whole thing started, the source material tells us to look up, way up. It suggests that a cosmic event, one that was described thousands of years ago, might just hold the key to a prophetic timeline.
So, in the Bible, there's this prophecy about a star called wormwood. Now, a lot of people read that and think, okay, that's symbolic. It's a metaphor. But the author we're examining, they argue for a totally literal interpretation. They believe wormwood is a real, physical object, a space body mass that's actually destined to hit the Earth.
And this is where things get pretty wild. The source draws a direct line between the two. You look at the ancient text from Revelation, and it describes a great mountain burning with fire being thrown into the sea. Then, you look at what we know today, and we've got the asteroid Apophis, a real object that scientists say would be absolutely catastrophic. The theory presents this as an ancient description of a very modern threat.
So you're probably wondering, how do we get from all that to the year 2025? Well, the logic laid out by the author goes like this. NASA has confirmed that the asteroid Apophis is going to make an incredibly close flyby on April 13th, 2029. The theory says that date isn't random. It's actually the midpoint of this 7-year tribulation period from the Bible. So you just do the math. Count back 3.5 years from that 2029 date, and where do you land? Right around late 2025. That's proposed as the start of this whole prophesied final chapter.
Now let's move on to the second clue, because this is where it gets even more interesting. The theory pivots from the cosmos, right back down to Earth, specifically to the United States. The argument is that the country's very foundation has a hidden blueprint for these events baked right into it. The source material pulls out quotes just like this one to make its point. See that phrase, a new order of the ages? That's a direct translation of Novus Ordo Seclorum, the Latin phrase you see on the Great Seal of the United States. The theory claims that this isn't just patriotic language. It's an open acknowledgement of an ancient hope tied to a secret long-term plan.
And that plan, the author argues, is hidden in plain sight. I mean, it's on our money, it's in our nation's capital, we see all these symbols. You have phrases like Novus Ordo Seclorum, the all-seeing eye floating above an unfinished pyramid, and of course the massive Egyptian obelisk we call the Washington Monument. The source connects all of these directly to Masonic traditions and ancient Egyptian beliefs, especially the story of the resurrection of the god Osiris.
So the crucial takeaway here, the real bombshell according to this theory, is that these aren't just historical decorations. They're presented as pieces of a blueprint for a nation that was meticulously designed with a secret purpose, to eventually usher in a global new world order and serve a spiritual power other than the God of the Bible.
And that brings us to the third and final clue. This is where the theory attempts to connect all those ancient prophecies and historical symbols to things that are happening in our world right now.
To understand this modern piece of the puzzle, the source uses a term it calls big oligarchy. What does that mean? Well, it's the idea that a very small number of massive corporations now own almost everything we watch, read, and listen to. This allows them to shape and control a single unified story for the public.
And I mean, just look at this. This really puts it into perspective. It's kind of staggering when you see how many huge, influential brands fall under just 3 parent companies: AT&T, Comcast, and Disney. We're talking news, movies, sports, even cartoons for our kids. The source argues that the messages we get are all coming from just a handful of boardrooms, which makes it way easier to influence public opinion on a massive scale.
And here's the modern leap. The author connects this powerful media control directly to the Great Reset, an actual initiative from the World Economic Forum. The argument presented is that with this kind of narrative control, the big oligarchy can shape how we all react to global crises, things like pandemics or economic downturns. They can push the idea that these crises require a total reinvention of society, paving the way for that prophesied New World Order.
So let's put all the pieces together. We've looked at a cosmic prophecy, a national blueprint hidden in symbols, and a modern political agenda. The author's big reveal is that these aren't just separate stories. They're all different threads, weaving together and converging on one specific moment in time. And that moment, that specific point in time, is the year 2025. According to the source, this is the year when all these forces, the prophetic, the symbolic, and the political, are all set to come to a head in a major, world-changing turning point.
So let's just recap the author's unified theory here. First, you have the cosmic clock, set by the asteroid Apophis, which points to that 2025 to 2029 window. Second, you have the national blueprint, hidden in America's founding symbols, laying out the long-term plan. Third, you have the modern catalyst, things like the Great Reset, which are speeding everything up. And finally, the convergence, where all three threads are predicted to come together in 2025.
The source also points to data like this as evidence of the kind of societal chaos it claims is necessary for this kind of major change. The argument is that deep national divisions create an environment of instability, and that instability makes people more willing to accept a radical transformation, like the one being prophesied.
And that leaves us with the final big question posed by the source material. Are we witnessing an ancient blueprint for the future finally falling into place? Or is this a modern theory that's just connecting unrelated dots to create a compelling story? That's the puzzle we're left to think about.